Well, in less than 2 weeks, voters in Alberta will cast their ballots in a provincial election set for April 16th. And one of the key moments of the campaign will take place tomorrow night when the party leaders will take the stage for the only televised leaders' debate of the campaign. You can watch the 90-minute debate live right here on CPAC Thursday night beginning at 7:30 Eastern Time. But what should we watch for? Graham Thomson is a freelance journalist. He joins me from Edmonton to look ahead to the Alberta debate. Graham Thomson, first of all, good to see you again. Thanks for taking time to speak with me.
It's my pleasure.
First, let's set the scene a little bit for the big debate in Alberta. What do the polls tell us about what the voters are saying 2 weeks away from the vote? What can you tell us about where the voters stand here?
It seems that the UCP, that's the official opposition with Kenney, of course, as the leader, is well ahead in the polls. We saw a poll today come out and say things haven't really changed in the last 2 weeks, that Kenney, the UCP, the Conservative Party, are well out in front. You've got the NDP doing quite well in Edmonton, then in Calgary, and the rest of Alberta is pretty much the UCP. There was a couple of polls in the weekend saying the NDP is making gains, but it seems that the general trend is the UCP is well out in front of the NDP in areas outside of the capital city.
Has there been a key issue that's dominated the campaign?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. It depends who you talk to. If it's the UCP, it's all about the economy and jobs and pipelines. For the NDP, they really can't campaign on that because right now the economy is softening. The jobless rate is actually up in Edmonton and Calgary. And of course, there's no new pipeline in the ground. So the NDP is focusing on leadership because people tend to like Rachel Notley. Even though they're not that keen on the NDP, they quite like her. So for the NDP, it's all about leadership. So they're saying she's a good leader. People tend to like her. And they're focusing then on, as a contrast, Jason Kenney and the fact that he's a socially conservative background, anti-abortion in the past, against same-sex marriage. Also, they're focusing on these, what we call it here, bozo eruptions by some of the candidates and UCP members in the last few weeks. So it's like two campaigns. But the thing for the NDP, the problem is people are talking about the economy, jobs, and pipelines. And that's the natural issues. And that's what Kenney is focusing on. So that's a real problem for the NDP, trying to overcome that and try and change the direction of the narrative in this campaign to talk about leadership.
And they're all taking shots at the federal government, right?
Yeah, well, they are, especially Kenney, because he is trying to tie Notley to Trudeau by saying, Notley and her good friend and ally, Justin Trudeau, because Trudeau, of course, is having problems these days. But also in Alberta, he's highly unpopular. Even though he bought the Trans Mountain Pipeline last year for $4.5 billion, that expansion has not gone ahead. People here think he hasn't done enough. A lot of frustration aimed at Trudeau. So Jason Kenney is really happy to then try and tie Notley to Trudeau to try and bring down her personal popularity. So that Trudeau's part of this campaign is not a positive for Notley, and she's trying to distance herself, saying that she's being quite critical of the Liberals, but not nearly as critical as Kenney. And this goes to the issue of the level of anger and frustration right now in Alberta to the federal government and actually other parts of the country, including especially British Columbia. A lot of anger. And you've got Kenney saying, yes, I'm angry too. If I become premier, I'm going to fight against the carbon tax federally. I'm going to fight for pipelines. I'm going to turn the tap off to British Columbia. It's a lot of rhetoric. He's even going to fight against equalization. But people are lapping it up thinking, yes, he's going to fight for us. And that's sort of the key campaign for him is, you're angry, you should be angry, I'm angry, I'll be angry on your behalf when it comes to dealing with other provinces. I don't know how that gets you a pipeline built, but it does play well right now in the campaign trail.
All right, so how much anger will we see in the debate tomorrow night? How important is this debate?
This is interesting. Most debates you think, okay, they don't really change people's minds. 2015, though, in Alberta, the last election, it was a key moment because Rachel Notley did really well against Jim Prentice, at the time the PC, Progressive Conservative leader, and the Premier. He did not have a good debate. He made a condescending comment to the Premier about math is hard, and that really got people thinking this guy shouldn't be Premier. What happened in that debate? People were leaning towards Rachel Notley, and that convinced them that, yes, she's a person to go with. I don't know if we're going to see that kind of moment tomorrow night because Jason Kenney is very polished. He's been around politics for decades, and he tends to practice these things. He was actually in debate preparation last Friday. He took a day off the campaign trail to prepare for tomorrow's debate. Notley's very good on her feet. The question is going to be, will it come to two people, Notley versus Kenney? And it should be, imagine those two people. You're also going to have, though, the Liberal leader in there, David Kahn, and the Alberta Party leader, Stephen Mandel.
You know, could they play any kind of a significant role in the debate, and if they do, I suppose a significant role in the rest of the campaign?
Yeah, I question. I don't know. Maybe if they were to attack Jason Kenney, and as him being too conservative, that might help Notley. Or if they're all going to gang up on Notley, we'll see what it turns out to be. I get the impression from the NDP, they're thinking this might be a wash. They go in there, nothing really changes. It doesn't change people's minds, and then they leave, and it doesn't really make a big difference. One thing, the one person who's not in the debate is Derek Fildebrandt, and he's leader of the Freedom Conservative Party. He's an MLA, elected as a Wild Rose, was more or less tossed out of the caucus for some controversies. He's formed his own party, the Freedom Conservative Party. He's very much anti-Kenney. And Notley and NDP were desperate to have him in that debate tomorrow night, to have a Conservative attack Jason Kenney. But the rules of the debate said no, he wasn't going to be allowed. And so it's going to be those four leaders. Also, the dynamics, you're wondering tomorrow night, if you're going to have three men attacking one woman, Notley, that might be a problem for them as well. So I wonder, though, depends how the dynamics work out, if they're all going to gang up on her, or will there be more attacks against Jason Kenney? Because right now, as I mentioned, the polls are showing Kenney so far out in front, he will likely win this election campaign. So people tend to go after the leader. So even though Notley is the premier head of the NDP government, the front runner right now seems to be Jason Kenney.
All right. So, Graham, lots to watch here, because as we know, Alberta politics always interesting, but there can be implications when the election comes on the national scene. You'd have another Conservative premier possibly in Jason Kenney, right, and vowing to scrap the carbon tax, vowing to fight Justin Trudeau. So there's lots of reasons to watch tomorrow night, and we'll see whether it makes any kind of a difference. Thanks for giving us your setup tips to watch for, and to give us some perspective on what's happening in the campaign, and what to watch for tomorrow night when we show the debate here live on CPAC, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Graham Thomson, thanks for your time.
You're welcome.